Hey, Necrosis. I have a switch that's coming in hopefully next week. A nice one. And I thought now might be a good time as any to see if I can at least start dipping my feet into the concept of VLANs. And I thought the easiest way to start would be to see if I can take my web server and put it on a VLAN to isolate the traffic. And I was thinking of doing it on the distributed switch, the virtual distributed switch in this case, to assign the VLAN and then passing it through my current managed switch and into pfsense, the main pfsense router for my entire network, because I only have one IP address. Having multiple routers may not be the best approach to my problem initially, which was I want the web server to have internet access. I just don't want it to have access to anything else. So I'm going to start experimenting with that, and this is going to quite literally be an experiment because I don't quite know exactly what I'm doing, but for now, like the first step I've taken anyways, is I have my web server up. I did a ping to Google. It doesn't see my network, at least the gateway network. That's good. That's what it was intended. I pinged a DNS server, Google's DNS server. That was fine. And then I shut down pfsense too before I started the recording. And at this point, this should no longer have internet access. And we are correct. So, at the moment, this is a big question as far as where do I even begin? I'm not exactly sure, because as far as I understand it, there's 3 variables I have to work with in my case. We have the actual web server, which in and of itself probably doesn't matter, but rather the distributed switch. This thing needs to assign it, I believe, a VLAN. So I think I have to create a extra port group that will do that to put the web server in a different VLAN so that traffic is tagged, at which point it communicates through these 3 load balancing interfaces with a managed switch. Now this is, I think, step number 2 that I have to worry about. I think in this case, because the web server is on this virtual LAN, it's not even going to hit my managed switch. It's simply going to go into here and then get routed into pfsense automatically without the extra step, I think. I'm not 100% sure. But one thing's for sure is the virtual switch needs to be configured correctly, and pfsense has to be configured correctly. Whether or not the managed switch here has to be, I don't know. I have a bad feeling about this, guys. Our topology shows I have this firewall dport group. And I think I should just be able to edit this. There is probably a VLAN tagging option in here somewhere. Oh, VLAN. That's probably a good place to start. Okay, VLAN trunking, and a private VLAN. We'll assign this VLAN an ID number. And I may change this later, but for now, let's just use the number 100. Okay, when I hit refresh, it looks like it updated this at least. So this port group has a VLAN ID now. So then how does this thing get routed, I wonder? I think I would need some kind of trunking that ties them all together somehow. Hey, look at that. Okay, that I see VLAN. Okay, looks like it's enabled VLAN trunking already by default. So chances are all I gotta do is connect this into the uplink and it should be good on this end. And yeah, the teaming and failover will send it to the link aggregation group. This is the 3 ports that my LAN is connected to on the switch. I have a Ubiquity switch that's coming next week. That's going to be 1,000,000 times better. But I'm still planning on keeping this, and I have a few different ideas. There's one. Let's select trunk. I have to give it a value range at least. It's like a save button or something. Hey, success, I think. Oops. I don't know if it actually saved it or not. This loading sure is taking a while. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Something bad's going on here. I only see the one tab. It has got Chinese on it. That's... Nope. Fixed it. Definitely not the best sign, that's for sure. Call it das trunks. Das trunks, y'all. Y'all. Oh. Fuck. And what about that? It's like not responding anymore. I think. VLANs. Let us attempt to add, what is my LAN interface? It's this one. Since it's not on the WAN that we're working with, we're working in the LAN. VLAN tag is 100. Not messing with anything else for now. Interface assignments. Available network input. I can't pronounce anything. Interface has been added. Let's see, from here we will go into here. Enable the interface. I'll call it, I don't know, VLAN 100. Static IP, and my understanding is this is going to be a new IP subnet. We'll just say, or no, not, sorry, 100.1. Single IP, so over 24, save. Apply. Don't forget to adjust the DHCP server range. Yeah, we should probably do that. I see. So there is a VLAN 100 now in the DHCP server. Normally my LAN itself is here, and I'm only assigning IPs that are in a small range within this .1 .whatever. So now this is separate. .100.10 to there. So now what happens? Broadcast address cannot be used in the ending subnet range. Yeah, well, fuck you too. And I believe the last thing that has to be done is the firewall. So there's the VLAN. Apparently when you make a VLAN, there are no rules whatsoever. Okay, I did it. I pulled it off, finally. If I ping a Google DNS server, it pings. If I ping the subdomain that this VLAN sits on, in pfsense, it pings. If I ping the actual router, it will not ping. Nor will it ping, say, another computer on that network subdomain. So the final step in the process was a little off from what I had read. I basically had to kind of create two rules, or at least that's what I did. The bottom rule being a block on the interface of the VLAN to a destination of the LAN network. And then above that I had the approve rule, or allow rule, or pass rule in this case. Third time's the charm. Interface same, everything's the same other than this was changed to the VLAN 100 net. And yeah, it was basically just the last step was managing this mess, and that's it. Success. Alright, so I'm just going to say this at the end. I'm looking at the Ethernet status card on the web server. It shows as 10 gigabits. It's 10 gigabit network, which means the speed is the internal virtual distributed switch. And I don't think this ever even went out into the physical managed switch. It just stayed within vsphere's distributed switch. I don't know if it required first communicating to the other switch or not, but what I do know is I went back into the physical managed switch and I removed those settings we put in on the trunking, and it is doing just fine. So I think all I had to configure under this setup was pfsense itself and the virtual distributed switch. So one less step in the process in this case.